Hello guys, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. Here's the biggie. This is the corrections video for the Soar Art 1/35th scale Dora railway gun, Schwerer Gustav, whatever you want to call it. There are a lot of issues with this kit, and I've basically picked on the ones that are immediately visible, and to me they make it look kind of wrong, if you like. So what I've decided to do with this video, I think I'm going to do it in chunks rather than like I did with the other two kits, try and do the whole thing in one video. It's like when I did the review of this kit, it ended up like being an hour long, and I know that people just can't stand to sit and watch something for an hour. So I don't want this to be an hour. It's easier if it's sort of 3 20-minute segments or whatever. So what I'm going to do is split the model into 3 sections. So it's going to be, this will be the track, the rail cars and the subcarriers, and then let's see how that goes, and then after that perhaps do the subordinates, the gun carrier, and then as the final part do the actual gun itself and the breech and everything. But by far, from what I've seen so far, the errors that I'm seeing are mainly in around the rail cars track, and this actual section we're going to look at now. If you've already built this kit and you've got it and you love it and everything, turn off, because what I think I'm going to show you might set a signal off in your mind, and every time you look at your model you're going to think, oh, I wish I'd changed that. It may not bother you at all. If that's the case, then great, but I'd hate to think that, you know, me showing you this has made you think, oh Christ, look at my model, it's wrong, and it does your head in. If you're not a rivet counter, then it won't bother you at all. I don't class myself as a rivet counter. I have been called a rivet counter, but I like things to be the right shape. Like for instance, the Hong Kong models 1/32nd scale B17. The nose around the windscreen is round. The nose is round. The real aircraft is not round. It's flat across the top, and then it goes round on the sides. Well, flattish, should I say. And as a result, because they've done that, the whole windscreen is lifted up too high because it's sat on top of a, sat on top of a curve like this, rather than being on a flat. It's on top of a curve, so it's not right. And it just, to me, it just looks so wrong. And then when they brought out the B17F, they just carried on and did the same again. I can't believe they did that. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, let's get the camera looking at the bench and see where we go from here. Get ready guys, it's going to be a long one. Right, so let's start from the ground up. And with this kit we get 4 of these track sections, and as you can see they're pretty large. Finish on them is nice. The actual sleepers look correct, although they could be a little wide, I don't know, but there should be a joiner in the middle. There should be a steel plate that goes in there that the bolts go through. I'll show you some reference pictures of those in a minute. And the other thing that's incorrect with these is the actual the gauge of the track. Measuring between the rails, which is the correct way, I believe. These are 45.5 mil, or 45, nearly 46 millimeters across. They should be 41. The standard gauge is 1,435 millimeters. So if you divide that by 35, it should be 41. Trumpeter's 1/35th scale track sections are exactly 41 millimeters. So Trumpeter score 100%, Soar Art score nothing. So yeah, these are far too wide. If you tried to put a Trumpeter 1/35th scale wagon or train on this track, it would just fall down through the middle. The other thing that concerns me, these aren't very nice, these rails. These aluminium rails, they're very tight and they do pull out. Be careful not to bend anything. But I don't know if you can see it there. They're overscale. If you compare this to the Trumpeter track, I mean, unfortunately the Trumpeter track has all these horrible ejector pin marks down the inside of it. But yeah, if you compare that to that size for size, this track is 5 millimeters tall, which equates to just under 7 inches in real life. This one equates to around 11 inches in real life. It's 8 millimeters tall. So, and you can also see the width. So you know, this track I believe is way too wide, way over scale. My advice to anyone building this, probably what I will do, is make sure that you get the trumpeter track pieces. Don't use this, and use the trumpeter track instead. The wheels, I have a wheel here, they actually fit the track quite nicely. You can see on there they fit on the track quite nicely. With this aluminium track there, I'll try and get this in the shot, you can see the track is actually a lot wider than the wheels, and I'm not sure if that's accurate. I don't think that is accurate. But the wheels are quite nice, as I said before in my review. They haven't got too big a lip on them or anything. They could perhaps be thinned down. One big advantage here is that the wheels, obviously, you've got this lug on the back and the wheels go onto an axle. And that lug is, it's roughly, hang on, that lug is 2mm deep. So if you can sand that off, get them up in a lathe or something, machine that off, then you'll get 4mm back, which brings you down to your 41 or 41 point something. So that'll give you your correct track width. Now, as far as the actual width of the rail cars and everything goes, I don't know, but you know, if you get your track right to start with, it's going to look better, I think, anyway. So yeah, my advice is don't use this. Narrow down your axles, get the track width to the correct size, and then what you'll have to do is build the trumpeter track up on a base like this, double the width, and then just measure here the centers, which you could just measure, say from, I mean like this, if we measure from the edge of that bolt there to the edge of that bolt there, we get 131.7. So if you go for 131, 132mm centers across the two tracks on your two lengths of trumpeter track, you're made up. And of course, on top of that, you could always get some trumpeter track and then just not use their rails, buy some is it 0 or 1 gauge. I've got some here which is for the 72nd scale model. If you remember, if you look back at my 72nd scale corrections review, you'll see the track section you get in that kit is actually bigger than this. In fact, I think it's even bigger than this. So yeah, for 72nd scale, but to be bigger than 35th scale is a bit over the top. But this is, I think this is 0 gauge, and you can see it's slightly taller and slightly narrower. The base is the same, but this is called flat bottom apparently. I know nothing about model railways, but I went to Antics and got this, and you can see it's slightly taller and slightly narrower on the top. But I'm sure the next one up, which is 1 or 0 gauge, which is 32nd scale, I'm sure that would match that quite well. So yeah, you could get away with not using the plastic track and not having these horrible ejector pin marks everywhere. So that's pretty much that for the track, I think. Of course, you could always, I guess, sand all this detail off, use this base with trumpeter track on it, and then just fill it all in with gravel, with ballast. So anyway, that's all by the by, that's for another video. But yeah, so there we go. That's the issues we've got with the track. Just before I put these wheels away, guys, I wonder if somebody could tell me, this hole here in the wheel, is that supposed to be a through hole, or is that just to be as an indentation as moulded? Thank you. Just want to tell you guys, this is the book I use for my reference. I've done a quick review on it. It's by Gerhard Taub, Deutsche Eisenbahngeschütz, railway guns basically, of Germany. And it said about these track joiners, you can see here on page 129, there's an image there which is showing you the track, and it's got those steel plates across the middle. So you've got two separate sleepers bolted together with those steel plates. Now, the text I've read said that these weren't used exclusively, they were only used randomly. But I can't really find any pictures that have got enough detail to show me, you know, whether it was actually randomly or not. I mean, if you look at this picture here, everything's all covered in snow. It's a bit difficult to tell. So yeah, up to you guys really. Right, so let's start looking at the rail cars or bogies, whatever you want to call them. And as you can see here, these are massive. Here's my hands. They're big. Not my hands, this. Well, I suppose my hands aren't that small, but I wouldn't class them as big. They're alright, I suppose, as hands go. They're okay. I like them. So yeah, here we go. We've got this these parts here. Again, as the 1/44th kit, misrepresented. 10 axles instead of 5. Can you imagine this trying to go around a corner? It just wouldn't happen. So this should actually be split into 2 lots of 5 as a minimum, and then move them slightly apart, because when you look at pictures of the real thing, you'll see this pitch doesn't continue. You get 5, then a space, then 5. Unfortunately, not like the Hobby Boss kit, where the Hobby Boss kit has got the 5 almost correctly spaced. They're a little bit too close together, but they've spread them really far apart. So yeah, I don't know what it is. It's the biggest error with all 3 kits is around this area here. And if you just correct this and do the barrel, then I think you've got a much better representation of the actual gun itself. So once again, as we did with the other 2, I've got this CAD generated drawing here. So you can see here, between the 5 wheels, if we just forget half of it, just remember one bogey, between the 5 wheels we should have a pitch of 171 millimeters between centers. This is 205. Ignore the fact my line's off center there. These dimensions are taken from measurements, not measuring this. So yeah, 205 millimeters is what the kit is. And overall, from center to center, the kit is 463, and it should be 414. I've based this on dimensions given between these centers in the actual drawings in this book itself. It's all I have to go on, and I've seen a couple of images with the same dimensions online. So basically what they're saying is the center of this wheel to the center of this wheel, which is the pickup points for the subcarriers, is 8,500 millimeters. So from that, I'm scaling this and assuming, not making an ass of you or me, assuming that the centers in each one is 6,000 millimeters, 6 meters, which gives us 171 millimeters in scale. Now, if you look at that, we know that the actual centers of the wheels, the centers of the subcarriers that go on top of these, fall directly over the middle wheel, the middle wheel of the 5. So we know that these centers here should be 8,500 millimeters apart on the real thing. So with a pitch of 6 meters and with 8,500 millimeters apart, we're going to get a gap in the middle, not like the kit is represented like this. And as you can see, if we ignore the middle 8 again, you can see how far out. We're almost 1 whole pitch out. So this needs to be shortened. So as a minimum, cut it in half, spread it apart a bit. If you really want to go to town and you're mental like I am, then cut it up and make it right. So you'd need to remove just over 9 or just under 9 millimeters between each track. And if you look at drawings, what I have discovered, I was wondering how the hell I was going to do it, but if you actually look at drawings, or not drawings, photographs, you will see, just look online, that the kit has been depicted with a too much of an angle here. It was much more vertical, and also the section here is much thicker than depicted in real life. So if you draw a line up there which is probably the correct sort of angle, which is near vertical, you could easily take your 9 millimeters out of there. You've only got to lose 4.5 millimeters aside, so that'll be easy to do. Do you remember I made this jig? If you watched my 1/44th and 1/72nd scale, you'll see that these holes here are the correct pitches for the 144, and these are the correct pitches for the 1/72nd scale. Well, in true Nigel fashion, made this one. Sorry, that's upside down. So with this one, that actual thing will fit, the whole part will fit in here once it's cut into 5, or as it is now. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes for the kit as it is today. And then when it's all cut up, it goes back together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes. So as you can see, you take it like this, take one end, and just drop it. Sorry, I've got the wrong hole. Take one end, drop it in, and that will clip in like that. Hang on, there we go. So that's in there like that, and that's not going anywhere. Okay, so now what we can do is that's held in place. We can make our cuts. I need to mark the jig up and make the cuts in the appropriate places, then take it all out, and it is quite a tight fit, so I need to get something to lever it out, so I won't take it out right away. In fact, though, it is coming by the look of it. Take it out and then move each individual section into the next hole along. And let's just get this out. There we go. So yeah, we can just, if you imagine that's the hole, it's in its correct position. So that one will go into there. If you can see that, you can see how far out they are. So there you go. So that's what I intend to do with this. If I build this kit, I will cut these up and shorten them. Staying with the rail cars, we've also got another issue. Let me get that out of the way. The actual tops of the rail cars here, they have these holes here as the centres, if you like. But if you look at them, I've got to get this out of the jig again now. Let's just get this out of the jig. Here we go. Right, let's get the jig out of the way. But if you look at how they've done it, they're actually not in line with the hole centres at all. They're fore and aft. So those pivot points should be directly above the centre line of the middle of the 5 wheels. So what some people have done is actually cut the rail cars in half and moved it apart so that those centres fall over those holes. So you basically have this like this on both ends. There's a problem with that. These aren't correct. They're not the scale 8,500 millimeters apart, because when you look at the Subcarrier, these are in the wrong position. These holes here are in the wrong position. So that's one issue. After it's all shortened and messed around with, you can bring that back. What they have done, because these are out of position, when you actually put this over the rail car in standard kit form, you can see that it actually brings it back. These are too far apart, these are too far apart, so basically it all comes right. But more about that in a second. Another thing I've noticed, if you look at the ends here, there is a slight taper, and you can see it on here as well. So when you put this together, that matches up like that. You've got a small taper at the end to fall in the ends underneath on the subordinate. And I'll show you in these pictures here, just to give you an idea. This is, where are we? This is where that angle is. But you can see, I mean, the angle of that shot doesn't help. But if we look at this image here, you can see here, the angle on the kit is way too small. You can see how long it goes. It comes right back over the first wheel there. So that angle that they've put on there is way too small and misrepresented. So yeah, that angle should come right back here. So something else worth looking at. That's also an issue on the Hobby Boss kit, I believe. I think in fact on the Hobby Boss kit, I think the angle may be a little large. Just before we move on to the Subcarriers, just one quick other mention about the rail cars. There is an issue with the buffers. The buffers are incorrect in that they are both flat, or they're both radius. They're either both flat or both radius, and as we all know, one should be flat, one should be radius. So that's something else worth looking at. Moving on to the Subcarriers, the first thing I want to show you, I mentioned just now that these hole centres are too far apart, but then that's compensated on the rail cars. If you're really fussy, this could be in the realms of rivet counting now. These hole centres should be back here, back about 18 millimeters further back from where they are. And if you look at this photograph here, I'm not sure if it's going to be very clear, but if you look here, you can see where these guys are stood. There's the front of the Subcarrier there, and this angular section here is underneath there. You can see this through the photo etch, and that pivot you can see is much further back from the front than they've got it. So if you want to do that work and make that correct, then that's something that could be done. I'm guessing a little slit here and cut that out, and then they'll come in, and then you can just move that pivot back and perhaps correct the detail underneath the mesh as well, which is shown here. You can see there's some oval holes. underneath there, and we have to assume it's the same on both ends, but we can't see obviously the inner end. So yeah, there's a little one to be going on with. Okay, right, carrying on with these subcarriers. Don't know if you guys can see the difference here. We've got the 35th scale Soar Art, the 72nd scale Hobby Boss, and the 144th scale Soar Art. Now I don't know if you can see the difference here straight away, but if you look at the shape of them, you'll see that these two are very, very similar, and this one is stretched out. Also note the length of this here compared to this one. Note how on this one there is a vertical upright at the intersection. This one there is no vertical upright at the intersection, it comes as a separate part correctly. This one has it moulded on. There's nothing for this one, there's a separate part for that one, and this one has it moulded on. That should come back to here and then down. But also if you notice, this section here looks perhaps a little slim. Now, working from sketches, drawings, photographs, whatever, it would appear that this shape here and this shape here are correct. Ignore these pivot points for a second. I don't know why Hobby Boss did that. The pivots are clearly out here. They seem to think the pivots are there, and they've put them right on the back of the rail cars, and in reality it would have just done a wheelie all the time. It would have collapsed in the middle. But anyway, so ignore them. But these centres here, according to the 8,250 millimetre dimension I talked about, sorry, the 8,500 millimetre dimension I talked about between these centres is absolutely spot on. And if you run to the middle of these flats here, which is where the actual pivot should be, again, this one is spot on. This one is too wide, and this appears to be out of shape. Now, if you look at photographs, look at this photograph, for instance, on the front of this book, you can see here that clearly the shape is a lot more acute than it is on here. And when you look at these at an angle, you can see how that shape becomes. Look at this one. You can see we look at an angle, that's how you get that shape. But this one, it's very long and slender. It's almost like a bridge or something. So what I've done, being that I feel these are so accurate, what I've done is put together a sketch. And I've actually measured this one, 72, sorry, the dimensions times 72 divided by 35. This one is the 35th, the red line, and the dotted pencil line is 144th scale. So I've gone times 144 and divided by 35. Now if you look at this black dotted line and this pencil line, this being the 144th, this being the 172nd, you can see they're very, very close together in shape and size. And if you look at the red line, the 35th scale is a mile out in comparison. So if you want to accurize your kit and make it look right, I believe this one needs some serious surgery. And what I would suggest is cutting through here, adding material onto this, and then re-establishing this back onto the underside of what you do. And it's funny that when you actually look at these dimensions here and scale them up, that exactly falls in the middle of there where it should do, and then comes down like this. And you can see here, when you actually put this like this, you can see that line there underneath. That's how far it is out. Sorry, I need to tip that up a bit so you can see it, or move it this way. You can see that that line there is where it should be, and you can see where that one is. It is slightly too long to scale, but hey, it's a couple of millimeters. I've also marked on here where the centers are. This is the center of the 72nd scale kit. Ignore that. It's just on there to show that they really sort of messed that up. But the overall look of the model with these is correct if you move your bogies in. And I'm not referring to picking your nose. The dotted line here is the correct position according to the drawings I've got. The 144 scale kit, you can see it's practically spot on. and the 1/35 kit is over here. It's easier to see on this one. So it needs to be moved in, like I say, 18mm per side if you want to get it absolutely dead on. But then what you'll need to do is, when you've shortened these and changed the shape and everything, you need to make sure that that pivot falls exactly over the center of that wheel, the middle wheel, and not off like it is at the moment. So there we go, guys. Now, oh, there's one more thing I want to show you just quickly, just one more thing, just briefly. I'm not going to get the parts out, I'll just show you in the instructions. If we look here, we can see the steps here. Sorry, I've got flicker. Let's get rid of that flicker. The steps here, and what we've got here is like a ladder thread with two. That's incorrect. That should be actual metal. I'm not sure if they're metal or wooden. I need to check my references, but they should be actual proper flat steps. So you just need to glue some plastic card over those pins to give you the flat steps. If you look at the 144 scale kit here, you can see they're molded on as flat steps. Okay, so, and also I don't think on the 144th kit they've got them on the back. I don't think they should be on the back. I think they should only be on the front. But again, I'll have to check my references. So there we have it. That's the corrections for now, and that takes us up to the subordinates, which is the large frame here going on top. So what we've basically looked at is everything below this line. So and you can see on there how slender that is when you compare it to that drawing there. I mean, I admit the angles are different, but you can see the difference when you look at that now, and also how stretched out those rail cars are in comparison to them. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I've certainly enjoyed putting it together, and I've enjoyed the research, and yeah, come back for more. Right then, guys, hope you enjoyed that. I certainly enjoyed putting it together. I enjoyed all the reference work, and I enjoy doing the drawing and everything. I love all that, and I love to find the errors. It's great. If I look at something that doesn't look right, then I start measuring, and when I start measuring I find errors, I'm happy. When I can't find any errors and I think, well, hang on, those drawings look right and those photos look right, but the kit just doesn't look right, then that's when I get frustrated. But here I think it's clear. I mean, we've got two kits here that, I mean, one's even from the same manufacturer, believe it or not, that have this photographically what appears to be correct, at least in outer shape. And then we've got this one here from Soar Art that's just looks like it's been stretched. So yeah, that was a biggie for me, finding that. And also when you look at the other kits, I mean, go away now, have a look on Google at some photographs of the built models, and you will see that with these, this area here, this ledge is clearly lower down over the wheel centers than this one is, and it gives this a kind of sleeker, more race car like appearance. So yeah, I don't think speed was this gun's biggest asset, was it? So yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope I haven't upset too many people. I know that Chris Barber has been talking about getting his tissues out. I hope it was for tears, mate. I hope it was to cry and nothing else. Because yeah. Anyway, so if you like that, please like and subscribe. If you disliked it, then hit that dislike button twice. And I look forward to putting the rest of this together for you over the next day or two. And today I finished work. I no longer work. I am now officially retired, unemployed, jobless. I don't know. Oh, and by the way, this is being filmed on my Logitech C920 HD camera, so that's why the picture isn't as good. After a long chat last night with Foxy, oh no, not Foxy, Fox, which is model making guru on YouTube. After a long chat with him on the Gross Models forums or live show, then I realised that basically I shouldn't have bought this, because this is not worth having. Because it's okay for this, it's great for web chats and stuff, but is it really? The iPhone pictures are much better, and all of the pictures on the bench have been done with the iPhone. So yeah, enough waffling. I'll shut up now and I'll say goodbye.